Hi, welcome to My Kitchen, Her Story, where we celebrate all things female leadership. Here we aim to inspire, educate, and empower. Today's guest got inspired by her own journey. Her experience, personal experience and journey got her on a mission to connect women to each other and their entire bodies and take on the feminine hygiene industry as we know it. With a range of microbiome balancing body care products designed for all skin, even intimate. Please meet the founder of Luna Daily, Katy Cottam.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited.
Me too.
I didn't want to say all that much about your company because you tell it so beautifully. But I do wanted to give a little bit of insight to the audience into what it is, but also you, because there's so much more to your company than what it is as a product. But before we dive into all those good things, tell me, what are we cooking?
So I sort of feel like we're cheating a bit when I say we're cooking.
Okay,
but
cold dish then?
Well, mainly cold dish.
Okay.
But it's one of my favourites, and actually it's been one of my favourites for a long time. So I felt like it was very fitting today, both sort of representing me, but also actually my life as a founder, and actually kind of one of the reasons I set up the business. So I'm making an Asian salad. It's full of not only delicious ingredients, but it's also full of really, really restoring ingredients for your microbiome.
Okay.
And
does it have a specific name, or it's just Asian salad?
Asian salad with a miso dressing.
Love that. Okay.
But I also love it because you can prepare it in advance, so you don't have to spend ages in the kitchen. It can be ready all week. But also, it was one of the dishes that I discovered back when I was a teenager, actually, and it was the same time that I first had the idea for Luna Daily. And I'd been on a course of antibiotics for 6 weeks after getting really unwell. Okay. And it had a fundamental impact on my microbiome. My gut microbiome, my skin microbiome, everything went to shot. I developed quite a few food intolerances, and one of the food groups I couldn't eat was bread. Now, I love bread.
We love a good bread.
Love bread.
Fresh, warm, crunchy.
Yeah. Just all kind of bread.
Yes,
I love.
all the bread.
And I had to cut out bread for a whole year to build back up my tolerance. And so if I was going to have to not eat bread, I needed salads that kind of really helped restore my microbiome, but also that were just delicious for me to not have to wish I was eating a piece of bread.
Right.
So that's the inspiration behind this dish.
I am so excited. I love flavorful salads, and salads are so underrated. So let's get started. But before we get started, do you want a glass of wine?
Always. Always.
Do you want to try Georgian wine?
Absolutely.
So I brought this bottle for us. So it's called Saperavi.
Yeah.
It's a red wine from Georgia, 2012, dry.
Sounds delicious.
Should we
crack it open?
Give it a go. Amazing. While I'm doing this, feel free to start your chopping adventure, because I can see there's a lot of chopping to be done here. But please tell me, or tell us, everyone, who are you? Where did you come from? What is your story? What's happening?
Me, we had a dating show growing up called Blind Date. And Cilla Black used to always say, what's your name and where'd you come from? I'm guessing it's not in the dating respect. So I'm Katy, and I'm originally from Birmingham. So I'm originally from the UK, but I've lived in London for 13, 14 years, so kind of London is definitely my home now. Went to university in Manchester.
Right.
And I mean, that's where I'm originally from.
Is your family in the UK?
Yeah, so I have 2 sisters. I'm a middle child, one of 3, so my poor dad. And both of them are also in the UK at the moment, but my parents still live at home. Both my parents are dentists, so grew up very much seeing their entrepreneurial lifestyles, particularly my mum, I think. Both my parents have sort of built their success on their own. Neither of them came from any sort of wealth. They were the only people who ever go to university, and that's definitely had an impact. Actually, probably that I'm only really seeing now. I think the positive impact that's had on me.
Right.
Seeing
also,
them be
if you want
entrepreneurs.
to learn by the way. So, would you say that your parents and their journey has inspired you to embark on that entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, and I think it's only more recently that I've realised it. But seeing both of them own their own business, run their own businesses, particularly my mum, having 3 children and still running businesses, definitely. I think it's probably given me the courage to go and do it. But actually, probably it's more my own career path that's given me the courage and the knowledge to be able to do it, I think.
How so?
I'm just going to go back to this. You obviously want the big knife, so you can have the big knife. I suppose the story of Luna Daily really starts with my own personal experience. And I haven't quite worked out whether I then subconsciously shaped a career to give me the skill set to be able to do it, or it's serendipity, or maybe a bit of both. But I'd been studying in India, and as I mentioned...
In India?
Yep, in Mumbai.
Okay.
It was after I was studying in Australia, I actually won this kind of award program to kind of... The objective of it was to build relationships between British and Indian universities. Okay. And I won a trip to India. Trip was great, but I got really unwell, really unwell. And so it was when I was back in the UK and I was put in a course of antibiotics for 6 weeks that it had this fundamental impact on my microbiome. Right. One of the things that happened is I got a really bad yeast infection, or thrush. And I'd never...
Down there?
Down there. Yep. Okay. And I'd never had it before. And I can still today remember the feelings of shame and embarrassment and confusion. And having to engage in a category, which is still for the most part today called the feminine hygiene category. Right. Critically for me, from that moment onwards, I wasn't able to use traditional body care products, soap, shower gels, other products on my intimate skin. Interesting. But would that trigger the same symptoms? Exactly. Okay. But I really resented that the only solutions available to me were these niche use, highly stigmatized, highly embarrassing products. Yeah. That sat in the feminine hygiene category. And ever since then, really, I've thought there's an underserving, it's an underserving category for women and people with vulvas. I was still at university at the time. I was working for Red Bull. So my first job was with a company called Red Bull. Huge. And that was sort of my segue into marketing. Yeah, that was my segue into marketing, really. You were on their branding team? So at university, I drove one of those ridiculous cars with a big Red Bull can on the back. No way you did it. I did. No. I did. Okay. And then I joined their head office team. And so I worked for them in London, actually in their category team. Right. Before then moving to L'Oreal. So L'Oreal was my segue into beauty. Okay. So I was at L'Oreal for about 4 years. I worked across multiple categories, but I specialised in makeup. Okay. So I worked on the Maybelline brand. Okay. I then was headhunted for a role at an early stage startup company. Right. And I wasn't planning on moving from L'Oreal, but I just got presented this opportunity. Right. And I remember phoning my very first boss from Red Bull and saying, I don't know what to do because I hadn't planned to go work for like a startup. Right. And he said to me, where do you imagine your life in 10 years? And I said, well, I kind of imagine driving to my own studio, maybe having a dog in the back of the car, like doing my own thing. And he was like, well, why would you not go and work in a startup and learn how to do it then? Right. And so I went and did it. And so I spent 4 years as head of brand marketing and innovation for a company called Bowl Foods, which is a spin-off of Innocent Drinks. We made plant-based ready meals, shakes, salads, etc. Right. And then most recently, I then moved to Charlotte Tilbury, and I was global head of brand. And so if L'Oreal and Charlotte Tilbury were my setting me up for beauty wellness, Bowl Foods was really my how you run a business experience. It was like small, startup, scrappy. Scrappy, get your hands dirty. Yeah. Love that. Should we take a sip of this one? I'll stop with my carrots in favour of wine. Cheers. Cheers. That's delicious. That's dangerously good. I'm glad we're last in the day. Yes. Tactical placement, maybe. It's going down. Or up, some might say, from here. But we'll definitely have red wine teeth in a minute. Oh yeah, we'll have to manage that. It's fine. We'll have to manage that. So these companies really gave you the experience that you needed to... Yeah, and you know what? I think each experience has been integral. L'Oreal was really my training ground. L'Oreal, I think, is still one of the best marketing training grounds in the world. Working on big brands, big budgets, but also, you get huge exposure to, all facets of business. Actually, when I left Bowl Foods, Bowl Foods definitely gave me the richest experience of how to run a startup business. It was night and day versus L'Oreal, supply chain, investment, smaller budgets, resilience. And actually, when I left Bowl, I thought to myself, God, I can't do it. It's too hard. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to go and do it.
Okay.
So I went to work for Charlotte Tilbury, and I was there at a really exciting time. You know, they were probably only 5 years old, but, you know, already doing, you know, phenomenal. We all probably know the Charlotte Tilbury story now, phenomenal success story. And it was actually in the middle of the pandemic where I had a moment where I thought, I've got to go give this a go. You know, for me, you know, we all had these sort of quite big thoughts during COVID, but for me, it was like, life's short and there's never going to be a good time to do something. And if you don't go and give this a go, you might end up living in regret for not doing it, then regret for doing it. And so I actually felt no fear. I think my friends...
That's amazing, and it's quite refreshing to hear, because it is a scary journey. Yeah. But also more so when you're switching over from corporate safe in a way.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at the time, I think my friends thought I was mad. This was when most of the country was getting made redundant or furloughed in COVID. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to quit my job. I'm just going to quit my big job. And they were like, what? And I was like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, I either, you know, I go and give this a go. If it doesn't work,
and then I'll try and get another job.
Yeah.
Right?
And so...
That's actually what my dad told me when I was considering my own venture.
Yeah.
Said, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You know, you have a great experience, you go back into that market, and at least you know you tried.
I actually think naivety or ignorance is a bit of a superpower when you enter the startup world.
Yeah.
You know, having confidence because you don't know how difficult it might be or what's to come. I think there's an element that you could argue is helpful, because you know, you have less fear.
Definitely. What are we doing next? I'm chopping this in the...
Yeah, all these going in here.
Okay.
We do all the raw first, so really easy.
So, how was your journey? When I met you, I feel like it has accelerated from then to now so massively, and you guys are now in the UK, in the US, in Sephora. I mean, amazing, right? But and you were just an infant. But the business was at the infancy stage when I met you, and then all of a sudden you were everywhere. And by the way, I love your products. It's just like...
You were an early convert. You were a very early convert.
Oh yeah, I was. I was like, give me more.
Look, it's... How is my journey? How is New Day's journey? It's... The best word I can use is phenomenal. You know, phenomenal can describe so many things, but it's the best, most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done. But it's been phenomenal. Our strapline is head, vulva, knees and toes. Head, vulva, knees and toes.
Okay.
Microbiome balancing body care for all your skin, even your most intimate.
Okay.
And so we bridge body care and intimate care.
Right.
You know, you shouldn't have to have harsh body products you keep away from your vulva, and you shouldn't have to have specific feminine hygiene products with all the what's wrong with her associations.
Just for that.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And a big part of my mission is to revolutionise a new category of products, but also help normalise conversations and revolutionise education.
Right.
You know, I am proof that if you normalise talking about this, it's not embarrassing anymore. I no longer feel like 19-year-old Katy. I don't care that I had thrush at 19. I don't care saying the word vulva. Do you know what I mean? I don't care anymore. I'm not embarrassed. And so,
but it's also our body part, just like an arm and leg. Yeah. So why has it become such a taboo that it's a shame to talk about it?
And you know, I could talk about this for hours, so I'll give the abridged version. What we know from our research is the reason it's taboo is sort of three things. The first is that it's a lack of education.
Right.
You know, we're not taught at school about intimate care. The word vulva wasn't even in my vernacular growing up. You know, I actually just called it all my vagina. I completely misnamed it, as do lots of women. Yeah. So the first is a lack of education, and unfortunately the use of non-anatomically correct language. You know, we all have these fake words we use for intimate skin. You know, we'd never make up a fake word for our elbow, like, oh, I hurt my elbow. We just call it your elbow. Yeah. Yeah, we all have these fake words for our intimate skin.
Yeah. Like down there.
Like down there.
That I used earlier.
Or fanny, or foof, or I'm sure everybody else in the room has their own. The second is a category of products that unfortunately are causing gynae issues for women. So, you know, 43% of women, their gynae routine has caused them to have, their washing routine has caused them to have a gynae problem.
Interesting.
Nearly 1 in 2 women.
Huh.
And the third is that there is this category of products that has for years marketed to women and people with vulvas. You need these products. You need specific products for your intimate skin. You need these products, which you just fundamentally don't.
You know, I remember when I first time moved to this country, which was like 14 years ago. Crazy. And I was in a supermarket, and I see this whole section for down there.
Yep.
And it's like, smell good, feel good, clean it, like it's new. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I needed all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started kind of trying to educate myself without, I was tempted to just go and like buy it. And who doesn't want to smell nice, wherever, everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was more that, wow, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more I looked into it, more scared I got, because then people talk about pH balance, you're disrupting it. People talk about, no, it's good, no, it's not good. So what is it?
So, I'm not going to spend the whole episode talking about vulvas and skin microbiome, I promise.
Okay.
But in its simplest term, your vulva is just skin. It's skin. It's very similar to skin on other areas of your body. It's actually very similar to the skin under your arms. So it's just skin.
Yeah.
And so you don't need specific products for your vulva. It's just that all of our skin would probably be a lot better having more suitable products for our skin.
With less chemicals.
Less chemicals, more pH balanced. It's more suited to our microbiome. And it's often for women that if they are sensitive, it shows up in areas like your intimate skin or underarm. So areas there. So it sort of makes people think that you need specific products.
Right.
So for context, a healthy skin microbiome is about pH 4 or 5, so slightly acidic if water is 7 at neutral. Most shampoos are between 8 and 10. Soap is 12. Bleach, for context, is 13.
12.
So soap is 12. Bleach is 13. And so actually, most of us are using products. If you have dry, red, itchy skin, flaky skin, sensitive skin, it's probably because you're using products that are stripping your microbiome. So our whole USP is that they are for all your skin, including your most intimate.
Amazing.
So you can use them everywhere, but also on your intimate skin.
I love that.
But back to your original question, Tamta, you said, what's it been like so far? And you're right, we have had, phenomenal success. Launching in the UK, launching into Sephora a few months ago over in the US. And I think a big part of our success has been timing.
Right.
And I think for any startup business, its timing is really important. I think, yes, phenomenal brand, product, vision, timing, and a bit of luck. I think even had I launched this a few years ago, it would have been too soon. Because,
do you think the market was not ready then?
Yeah, because I think so much of the market within the consumer space is driven by the retail landscape, and retailers have to be ready to engage in the conversation, to help drive awareness, to educate, to make it normal to see products like these adjacent to others, but also, the conversations I was having with retailers is, we don't want to be in a feminine hygiene category. We should just be in body care. We are just body care.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, a big part of our success has been timing, because retailers shape so much of consumer behaviour.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that's definitely played a part. And now every single, the macro trends are clearly here to stay within female wellness, within body care. And every single retailer has kind of responded to that positively and knows that, they need to change. They need to act differently.
What has been the most challenging part on your journey? Was it the education? Was it market readiness? Was it fundraising? What was it? Or was it all great? Because that happens too.
The hardest, most rewarding thing was fundraising.
Was it?
Yeah. So
well, I don't know many people who would call that journey rewarding. So you're winning already.
Well, the reason I say rewarding, and also the reason it was the hardest, is because it's like politics and mortgages. You're not taught about it at school. You have to like learn on the go. Like, no one teaches you how to go and do it. And so it's just like, it's this game you have to learn. And a lot of it is a bit of a game. And so for me, I found that, it was hard, it was a challenge. I'd never done it before. But also, the economic backdrop in which we were doing it against. We launched the business on the 1st of March 2022. And so we started fundraising 4 weeks after launching. So we knew we needed to have, an element of MVP to show some traction, but we could also see that the economic climate wasn't great, wasn't looking great. So we wanted to give ourselves as much runway as possible.
Right.
It ended up taking us, we officially closed our fundraise on the 1st of March 2023, so on our first birthday. So it took 11 months from start to finish.
How much did you guys raise?
We raised 3 million.
Wow, from first raise.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh, so second raise. We did a
Second
pre-seed with angels.
Okay.
But first.
But no, but seed is still
first post
a
yeah,
lot.
First
It's definitely above the average industry kind of norm.
So we raised both through my existing angels. I have a phenomenal set of angel investors who have continued to support me. We brought on board 2 new VC partners, and we also have a finance facility. So for utilization of stock buys, other marketing activity.
Right.
So some of that is equity, some of that is finance.
Okay. And when you say, because my question was, what was the most challenging part? And you go, fundraising was amazing.
Oh, no. Challenging but rewarding.
Oh, was it challenging?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you say to any business, any founder, fundraising feels like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And if you've only just launched your business, needing to be CEO,
right,
having another full-time job of fundraising is really tough.
Yeah.
But what I also found tough was the response was amazing. I would have found it easier if people were like, nah, awful idea, don't think you should do it. Whereas everyone I met was like, this is an amazing idea.
Okay.
It's amazing. It was just that you're just that bit too early. And so it was almost more frustrating because...
because they're like,
there
we
was
love
appetite.
it,
Yeah.
but... Okay.
And I think the longevity of which it went on for, we were actually ready to close in October. So literally as the UK economy was going into free fall, and everyone was encouraging me to close. But actually we then had increased commitment from Sephora. They actually massively massively increased not just the order size, but also sort of the partnership. So we went from being online only to being the first ever brand to be in store of our category.
Yeah.
And whilst that's amazing, also we knew it was going to require fuel in the fire. And what I didn't want to do is do a smaller fundraise to then need to go out again in 6 months.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, no way. I'm going to make this last longer. And so I was being encouraged to close a smaller round, and I decided to not close and keep going and go for a bigger round, which means we would have much longer runway. And so really, really challenging in terms of it can be lonely, it can be demoralizing. I remember actually when I was at a particularly difficult point reading an article about the female founder of Canva, which I think is now the highest valued female-owned business ever.
Yeah, they did insanely well.
Yeah, and she pitched to 100 VCs who said no. And then
100,
and then it was the 101th? I never say it.
First?
101st that said yes.
English is my fourth language,
There
thank
you go. 101st that said yes.
Right.
And I really needed to hear that you don't need every single investor in the world to say yes. You don't want everybody to say yes. You need the right ones. So yeah, but that's why it's rewarding, because I feel like I've learned a whole new skill set. It's the proudest achievement of my entire life.
Amazing. And did you actually have, whether it's investors, people around you who were like, no, and did that fuel you up more? Oh
yeah, everybody gets no's.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to, because it's important to, because first of all, it would be impossible for every investor relationship to be right for you. I actually think cash it's not the least important, obviously, but it's not the most important, or it's not only the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because it's about having the right partners.
Exactly, because you are literally sharing your baby with them.
Yeah.
Right? And if their vision for your brand is not aligned, then that can be disastrous.
And actually, here you go, who is now my lead investor, said no.
No way.
The first time we met, I'd actually met I'd actually met with them before we launched, and they were always up there as people I would really want on board because I loved the team, I loved their reputation. They're called Red Rice.
Right. Oh, I love Red Rice.
Yeah.
They're so great. Okay.
And
they said no at first.
Yeah. So I met with them before we launched. They loved the idea. I then went to see them again when we started raising, and we got quite far down the line. And at the end, they said, "Look, we love it. You're just too early. Come back in 6 months."
Well, 6 months doesn't seem like a lot of money for the market to reshape, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
so
okay.
About 8 weeks later, I got the news from Sephora, and so I phoned up Red Rice and said, "Look, I know you said no. How about you say yes?"
How about we flip that on its head?
Yeah, and it was actually a really good mentor of mine's husband, who said to me, "Just go and ask. Like the worst that's going to happen is people say no."
Absolutely, right.
And so I did, and we had more traction. We had proof of market fit. We had this amazing opportunity with a retailer, and long story short, they ended up saying yes.
And not just saying yes. I mean, like having them as a lead investor from a no, that's a massive change.
And you know, it was clearly all meant to be. So yeah, that's my other advice. If somebody says no, don't necessarily take no for an answer.
Right.
So we'll make the dressing now.
Yes. Do you want me to grate this? Or
So,
I have a grater too.
Yeah, but if you have a spoon, a small spoon.
Yeah, to peel it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
I can do that. I'll do that.
You
It's
sure?
just, yeah.
You can do it on your desk, okay?
Okay, I'll do it on my desk. You can do the garlic crushing. I don't want to do the garlic crushing.
No?
I don't want my fingers.
How much garlic are we crushing?
I'm pretty flexible, but I reckon you go for
lot.
maybe 4.
Okay, I love garlic.
Yeah, me too.
We love garlic.
Me too.
Yes. So tell me, what are the areas that you would say you are working on improving right now? What are the areas that you thought maybe you were good at and actually, in fact, you realized,
Yeah.
maybe not?
So from a business perspective, one of our priorities is efficiency.
Right.
You know, we are a relatively small team still, so we're a full-time team of 6. If I include, you know, advisors, contractors, others, we're probably more like 15, 18, but full-time team of 6. And so how do we drive this efficiencies as we scale? You know, what's gone from being me and maybe 2 employees in one room has become me and a team of 6 in an actual office. But with that means that, you know, if every single person is in a meeting for an hour, that's 6 hours of people's time. That's nearly a whole working day.
Yeah.
And so really how we drive efficiencies with scale and balancing how we set up for scale, you know, investing ahead of the curve and things like team in terms of systems, but also managing, you know, that's a balance, right? If you have to kind of invest ahead of the curve if you're growing very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, things like scaling up our production, bringing on new manufacturers, exporting to the US, etc.
Yeah.
And
you know, that is a good point, because I always tell even the youngest of the businesses to start right, to start organized, clean.
Yeah.
Marie Kondo that business.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because then it gives you clarity to make informed decisions when you have the right data on the right platform, right processes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And sort of setting up, you know, the business was always set up for scale because I always believed in the opportunity and therefore I knew that we would scale quickly. But continuing to drive, like, how do we be ruthlessly efficient and ruthlessly prioritize as a business? In terms of what I'm trying to do better, always my number one priority will be my team, my people.
Yeah.
You know, for me,
having that culture, because you guys are massive on culture.
Yeah, I know, you know, it's the single most important thing I think any business does is people. You can build an incredible brand, incredible product, but it's the people that ultimately make it happen. And it's something that's been my steepest learning curve. You know, before starting Luna Daily, I experienced burnout myself. And for me, how it manifested itself is it was like somebody just switched me off. My brain just stopped working completely. It's like somebody had unplugged me.
Was that throughout the Luna Daily journey?
No,
or
it was before Luna Daily.
Right.
And I remember saying to my manager afterwards at the time, you know, I just felt like I gave up. I felt like I failed. And she was like, no, your brain was actually really clever. Like, you refused to stop, and so your brain forced you to stop, and that's why your brain turned off. But if I'm honest, until it happened to me, I thought I understood burnout and poor mental health, and I didn't. I thought I did, but I didn't fully understand why somebody would be signed off sick, or that your brain could just stop working. And even if you wanted your brain to work, it wouldn't. And it wasn't until it happened to me that I really understood it. And ever since then, I've had a very clear line in my notepad, whatever you want to call it, that I will only do this business if myself and the people around me are the happiest, healthiest they've ever been. Because otherwise, what's it all for? It doesn't matter if we help millions of women. It doesn't matter if we help change a cat or whatever.
Expense?
At what expense? You know, life is too short. And so that has been, it is so important to me. So that the most important thing I do is take care of my people, my team.
Yeah.
And
how do you do that? I mean, like, tell us maybe how can other
So
entrepreneurs, like, not just like, I'm sure nobody wakes up and goes, I want my employees to be unhappy.
So
although I did work at an organization at one point in my career where I told our, very senior leader, head of UK, I was like, I've never felt more anxious coming to work ever in my life, in my career. And you know what his answer was?
Tell me.
He smiled. And he said, yeah, we pride in that.
The thing is, right, every year in the UK, more working days are lost by people being signed off with poor mental health than anything else.
Right.
Anything else.
Yeah.
So there's a real commercial reason you need to look after your people. So that was a silly response from him because, commercially it's just going to mean that people are burnt out, and if they don't leave, then they will have days off.
Yeah.
But more importantly, on a moral level,
on like a human level.
On a human level,
right?
Like we work more than anything else, apart from maybe sleeping. If you're lucky to get 8 hours sleep every night.
Yeah.
And so, like, there is a big focus at the moment on how businesses can support people with mental health, whereas I think businesses should have an opportunity, or should foster positive brain health. Like, we do that more than anything else. Like, you see your colleagues more than you see any of your friends and family.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a combination of practical things you can put in place. So things like, we only work 4.5 days a week. Every week we finish at 1 o'clock on Friday. There's loads of research to show that a longer weekend is better. We were going to do a 4-day week, and actually the team said the idea of having to wrap up my week on a Thursday is too much. So there were no meetings on a Friday. You do your admin, you wrap up, we clock off at 1 o'clock. I send out like a highlights of the week, and then everyone goes and has a longer weekend. What happens on a Friday afternoon anyway?
Yeah.
And no
one. I know.
What happens. So there's practical things.
This happens.
This happens. At 5 p.m. on a Wednesday.
Yes. School night.
There are other practical things, like every single person has been on a mental health first aid training. It's phenomenal training that equips you with the skills to support others with poor mental health.
Right.
So it doesn't teach you to be a therapist, but it teaches you to be able to notice and then also how to deal with people around you, whether that is work colleagues or friends and family, but inadvertently it also teaches you yourself.
Yeah.
So tomorrow is meant to be 27 degrees and sunny in the UK.
Is it?
When was the last time we had sun in the UK?
Today.
Today maybe,
But before this, like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's then due to be raining all weekend again. All my team have been moaning the last few weeks, as everybody has, about the British weather.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow, everyone's allowed to work adjusted hours. Do your job, work your hours, but if you want to work 7 till 10 and then the evening, go and enjoy some vitamin D. But because ultimately, if people are the healthiest, happiest version of themselves, they're going to be more productive anyway. And they're going to be, and so it's in my interest anyway, but it's also, I really want to do it.
Yeah.
And then the final thing I'll say is particularly for businesses where you have a high proportion of women or people with vulvas or people with female reproductive organs in your business, having policies that really support them. But unfortunately, the current government policies are not enough. There is no official policy if you have a miscarriage, or if you need to undergo treatment, fertility treatment, or if you're struggling with perimenopause. And so,
but even let's go lighter. What about when you're having your menstrual cycle? Yeah. Right? Like some of them, it's such a debilitating pain.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen more and more this topic being brought top of mind, and kind of people asking, well, should people be allowed to use that as a sick day, or whatever they need? And so I'm really glad that these kind of conversations are getting more prominent these days.
Yeah. So we have a whole female health policy that is everything from periods, endometriosis, through motherhood, if that's your journey, all the way to perimenopause, acknowledging that it's not just about, it's not just, somebody might have a menstruation once a month, it's so much more, and how we can support that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So tell me, how did this, career journey impact your personal journey? Or did it not?
How did my career journey impact?
I mean, have you found that you have been balancing it well with your private life, with your friends, family, whatever that private life entails?
So I think, well done. Well done. I think I've always been somebody that has been very hardworking. Right. And my first memory of being hardworking was my GCSE exams, so the exams you take when you're 15, 16.
Yeah.
And at school, I was what they would have called me, distinctly average. In actual fact, I wasn't distinctly average. I just went to a school where, it was the top 3% in the country. So I ended up getting, 11 A stars and 4 A's at A-level and whatever. But I was made to feel like I was distinctly average.
Right.
And it wasn't a pressure my parents ever put on me. It was just a pressure I decided myself.
Yeah.
I remember I had an A-level chemistry teacher who told me I was going to fail A-level chemistry. Probably because I wasn't concentrating and going out seeing boys and things. But I remember being like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm not going to fail chemistry.
Right.
And ever since school, I've somewhere in me have kind of, go for it. Somewhere in me, I found just kind of self-motivating to be hardworking. And that's definitely translated through my career. I've got memories of times in my career where I've worked, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day of the week.
Right.
So that definitely would have impacted my personal life. Mm-hmm. But I think in your 20s, you have this weird resilience. You just have no worries. I look back at me in my 20s and I didn't actually have any worries. And I think you're just able to do it. Whereas I think the older you get, or certainly for me, the older I've gotten, I become more aware of it. And so it's been something I've been really conscious at when starting Luna Daily. But now it's a different type of balance I'm having to get. Because for lots of the time, for me, I love it so much that I want to do it all the time, not because I have to or because, someone's telling me to.
Yeah.
Someone's actually really telling me to do it. I'm driving myself because I want to.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is you have to put in guardrails of balance, not for when it's easy and you're loving it and you're enjoying it, but ready for when it gets tough. So I think finding things that bring you real joy outside of what you're doing as a founder, and then proactively making sure you're doing them on a regular basis, so that you continue to foster a healthy balance. And it's harder to do when lots of the time you love it so much.
And it reminds me of when you tell this kind of story of the balance and how you can have a burnout and how you can't switch off. It reminds me of my first job. And your first job.
What was your first job?
It was at a software company, more startup. I mean, smaller than any other companies I worked for. But it was my hardest job. I mean, I did not sleep throughout the whole year and a half, and that was probably the shortest job I've ever had. But in fact, it was the toughest one.
Yeah.
And so I would fall asleep, and I would, those little Blackberries that we had.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And so
they came and went, didn't they?
And then we had this. It was on vibration, and I would receive an email. It could be any time, 3 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever. Sleeping. I would wake up on the vibration, automatically start reading an email and start typing a reply. And it was so incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah.
But I've done that for a year and a half, and it gave me a lot. But also at the time I had a lot of energy and hunger and almost the physical health. Yeah. Until I didn't. When I was switching between jobs from there to another, also at this company we had absolutely psychotic head of UK who was throwing staplers at us.
Sorry, it's not funny.
It kind of is now, but you know what? Fun fact about that guy, man. I mean, it's not because it's a man. It could have been a woman, but it's just factual. When I quit and I said I was moving to another organization, he put me through the most traumatic meeting of my life. Head of HR was there. And you know what? She did nothing. She was on his side, and he was like, if you take our clients, we're going to sue you. I'm going to ruin your life. At that time, I was also on a student visa because I'm Georgian and I need a visa. And so it was just this daunting, awful meeting where it's I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean, I'm just switching companies. Yeah. I'm not even telling you how shit you are. Yeah. And you're threatening me, this old ass person. Yeah. And I'm what, early 20s? And fast forward, it was maybe a year ago, I get a LinkedIn message from him. He's like, hey Tamta, long time. I'm like, yeah, fucking long time. Yeah. And he was like, I met this new company, startup, we're raising capital. I wonder if you could help. Karma is a bitch.
Yeah.
Also, goes around, comes around,
Yeah.
you know? But it was just so interesting for me that he was so oblivious to the fact that how awful he was.
Yeah. And it's amazing, right? Because those people really do, they really stay with you. Like, I think in lots of positive ways, they really shape you. You know, on the other side of the coin, that first manager I told you about that told me to quit my job and go work for the startup, I was able to phone him 10 years later and go,
and be like, I did it.
Guess what? I've just realised I was sat down in Devon, it was my birthday, and I don't know what made me think of it, but I was like, oh my goodness, I've just realised that it's lovely, but it needs thinning out slightly.
With
tiny bit of vinegar, tiny bit of water.
Okay.
And I phoned him and I was like, Doug, I've just realised that 10 years has passed and I'm driving a car with a dog in the back to my own studio. And what I hadn't even realised I was doing, what 10 years ago I said meant was real success. So yeah, I think for both the good and the bad, people like that can really shape the leader you want to be.
Yeah.
Or the leader you don't want to be.
Yeah, definitely. So while we are wrapping up in our very messy kitchen.
Yeah, no. Do we have sesame seeds by any chance?
We have both colors.
Oh, of course you do. And then we have to actually do the cooking bit. The fish.
We're cooking. What fish? Oh,
yeah,
I forgot about that.
You said it was a cooking show. I felt like I had to cook something.
Oh my God, and we forgot to show people that we have also fish. Fishies. Fish.
So
yes, we have prawns, we have scallops.
I'll do a little bit more garlic for the fishies.
Okay, let's get cooking.
Advice.
Is there one advice that you would give for everyone to keep in mind while on this journey?
Yes. Well, I have 3. Is that cheating?
Yes. No, tell me.
It's cheating, but I'll do it. Okay. My first is having people around you. I don't mean like networking and, you know,
support system.
But what, like real like buddies, like people that really, really understand what you're going through, and so that you can really ask the dumb questions, the business dumb questions, and then also really importantly out of work, enable you to switch off.
Yeah.
But having just people around you, whether that's your team or advisors or friends, to share the load.
Yeah.
The other one is, I mentioned a bit of it earlier, but really understanding what your values are. So somebody once told me that your values are the things that like make you jump out of bed and make you feel like the best version of yourself.
And remind you why you're doing it?
Remind you why you live, like what, beyond work, like life is so short. And, you know, my dad says to me that, my dad's in his late 60s now, and he says every single year gets quicker. It never slows down. And I feel like every year of my life is getting quicker.
Yeah.
And he says, trust me, it never stops. And so if that's going to keep happening, it's so important that like our lives, our years are fulfilled. And yes, building an incredible business is so important to me, but it's not the only thing that's important to me.
Right.
And having things that help you stay calm and happy, and having things that bring you joy outside of work. So my things are going on a dog walk. I've been to see Coldplay an embarrassing number of times. Going to listen to loud music.
Yeah.
Going for margaritas with my best friend.
Love. Spicy?
Always.
Straight up, no salt, no ice for me.
I'm with you on the no salt.
Unless it's the spicy rub.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. But going and doing those things as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I reckon we're going to blink and we're going to wake up and we're going to be 60. And yes, I
Should we do
back.
This
Yeah.
all over again?
We'll probably be doing the same thing.
We'll probably just drinking margaritas.
We'll probably be drinking margaritas. Next time, margaritas.
Love that.
Just on the side. Okay. This is going to be really fun to mix.
Should I?
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out how we get it to... Yeah, go for it.
To mix it?
It's just a very full bowl.
Very careful.
I think we were like talking so much, we just kept chopping.
Yeah, I know. We just chopped away, guys.
It's just a good old mix.
Yes, give me that. I mean, to be honest, to me, it looks really nice.
Yeah, we can
colorful.
We can prettify it.
Prettify it?
Prettify it, yeah, as in, yeah.
We should face tune it.
Yeah. No, I'm not into face tune.
No?
No.
What's a prettifying then?
Just like make it look all zhuzhy and good on camera.
Zhuzhy. Okay. Okay, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
For a bit of a fun. And then let's do the sauce.
Put the prawns in.
Don't leave the prawns.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Immediately zhuzhy.
See? You got the brief. You know how to zhuzh.
My new word to my vocabulary today. Zhuzh, zhuzh.
I learned double cooking.
Love. Oh my God. This actually looks...
Why do you sound so surprised? It actually looks okay.
Kimchi.
We just serve it on the side.
Like around here?
Doesn't look awful.
It looks delicious, I think.
Okay, enough kimchi. No. Wow, your microbiome's going to be absolutely sorted.
Oh, I love it.
There we have it. I don't know
so
whether
good.
kimchi's made it look worse, but
Okay.
here we go.
I think that's it. That's our
That's
dish. That's a heavy dish. Let's try. Real good.
Delicious.
I want that scallop. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, with my mouth full.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been
As
amazing
always.
having here, but also hearing your story and all the different facets.
Well, thanks for having me.
For you. Clearly, I'm hungry. I have a little gift for you.
Oh my God, you need to do that. Thank you so much.
We have beautiful roses from Flower Box.
Oh, just to brighten up your day. Thank you so much. You always brighten up my day. Thank
And
you
say
so
thank
much.
you for being so amazing and for doing so much for all of us.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure. And these are going to have pride of place.
Yeah.
God, you can tell a girl bought a girl these. They're actually designed that you can actually
There you
carry them
go.
home.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Tamta.
Thank you for
And thank you
everything.
for having me.